We want a debate that is lively, but Americans also deserve a discussion that is civil.
Fox 59 is your local election headquarters. The vice presidential candidates taking the debate stage in what was a stark contrast to the presidential debate last week. For the most part, both Vice President Pence and Senator Harris waited for each other to finish their responses and rebuttals. Some of the topics included the economy, jobs, taxes, and foreign policy. One of the biggest topics, the empty seat on the U.S. Supreme Court bench. Vice President Pence voiced concern regarding upcoming confirmation hearings for Judge Amy Coney Barrett.
And we particularly hope that we don't see the kind of attacks on her Christian faith that we saw before. Senator, I know one of our judicial nominees you actually attacked because they were a member of the Catholic Knights of Columbus, just because the Knights of Columbus holds pro-life views.
Senator Harris said it was insulting to suggest she and former Vice President Joe Biden would knock anyone for their faith. She also pointed out they were already in an election.
Over 4 million people have voted. People are in the process of voting right now. And so Joe has been very clear, as the American people are. Let the American people fill that seat in the White House, and then we'll fill that seat on the United States Supreme Court.
Vice President Pence pressed Senator Harris for an answer on whether a Biden administration would, quote, pack the Supreme Court by adding liberal justices if they win the election. By packing, he means adding more than one justice at a time, which they can do. That question, it was not answered. Of course, the ongoing pandemic, another major point of debate.
Senator Harris criticized the current administration's response and talked about what she and Joe Biden would do differently, while VP Pence says President Trump has always taken the health of Americans seriously. Fox 59's Eric Pointer joins us now in the newsroom with more looking specifically at that. Eric, good morning.
Good morning. So Harris called the current response a failure, the greatest failure of any presidential administration in the history of the country. But Vice President Pence says the leaders of the White House, as the leader of the White House coronavirus task force, he defended the response. Vice President Pence says that President Trump, before there were 5 cases in the U.S., when all the cases were from people who had returned from China, he said that President Trump suspended travel from China. Now Vice President says that while this was a move that Joe Biden opposed, this gave them time to mobilize and save hundreds of thousands of lives. But Harris criticized their response, saying that they didn't alert the country soon enough. And she says that they still don't have a plan, but she says that she and Joe Biden have a plan that she has faith in.
And our plan is about what we need to do around a national strategy for contact tracing, for testing, for administration of the vaccine, and making sure that it will be free for all. That is the plan that Joe Biden has and that I have, knowing that we have to get a hold of what has been going on, and we need to save our country. And Joe Biden is the best leader to do that. And frankly, this administration has forfeited their right to re-election based on this.
But Pence says President Trump did everything in his power to protect the health of the American people. He says they were able to deliver billions of supplies to doctors and nurses to make sure they had the support they needed, and they began developing a vaccine, medicines, and therapeutics. He also says that he doesn't see the difference in the Biden-Harris administration plan and what they would do differently.
The reality is, when you look at the Biden plan, it reads an awful lot like what President Trump and I and our task force have been doing every step of the way. I mean, quite frankly, when I look at their plan that talks about advancing testing, creating new PPE, developing a vaccine, it looks a little bit like plagiarism, which is something Joe Biden knows a little bit about. And I think the American people know that this is a president who has put the health of America first, and the American people.
Now, the two also butted heads when it came to the potential vaccine. Harris saying if President Trump tells her she should take it, she's not taking it. And Pence saying that her undermining the confidence of the vaccine is unacceptable. Another big topic was the open Supreme Court justice seat. I'll have more on that later this morning in the newsroom. Eric Pointer, Fox 59 News.